The 13th of February 2025 marked 365 days of running every single day for a year. On the 13th of February 2024, I started running every day. I decided to do this challenge, which I'd seen someone do on Instagram, and I had zero running ability at the time. Honestly, like I would run to get a bus that was, a few meters away, and I would get winded. Like really, honestly, no running ability since school. But I thought, I actually had seen the day before Revy Jane on Instagram post her sort of fitness journey post children, and I've had 2 kids, and I was just so inspired. And I think a part of her video was her kids coming to races and holding up signs and cheering her on and being there as she was like going through the hard yards. And I loved the idea of not hiding that or doing it in private, especially around our kids, because I want them to see that it is good and positive to show up for yourself even when it's hard, and that they can do hard things if they put in the time and commitment. And then separate to that, I wanted to feel like I was doing something for myself, especially after having my second child. I haven't been happy with sort of my fitness levels and the way that looks on both the inside and the outside. And so I was also hoping that this would help that side of things and help me get back to myself a little bit more. And I've also never been consistent. That's not to be self-deprecating. I'm really bad at being consistent, or have been in the past. And I wanted to prove to myself and to the people around me that I could consistently put myself first and also be a good role model for the boys. So that's why I started running every single day for 365 days. I wasn't sure if I was going to continue it after the year was up, but I have absolutely fallen in love with running. Like in the last year, I've gone from not being able to run 2 kilometers in a row, or to be honest, even a kilometer, like straight running, to I've done a 10K race, I've done 2 half marathons, and now I'm signed up to do my very first full marathon in April. So it just goes to show like how much your life can change if you commit to something and showing up. And some days I ran 10 minutes. I had gastro for, a few days last year, and I literally had to run around my kitchen bench because we were living in an apartment. And I couldn't leave. I couldn't go outside. I was too sick. I had to be very close to a toilet. So I literally ran around for 5 minutes, the kitchen bench. And it's just about incorporating movement and showing up every single day in whatever capacity that you have. And I've just learned so many things this past year about myself and my abilities, about other people, and also the ripple effect that doing something like this can have on your life, but also other people's lives. And amongst all this, I wouldn't have done it. And there were so many days where I said, I just don't want to go. I just don't want to do it. But I did, because I knew that there was a community supporting me as well, and they were rooting for me, and I didn't want to let them down as well as myself. So I wouldn't actually say that it ever became a habit, even doing it for a year. Maybe this is because I never had a consistent time, like I've moved it around and it hasn't been like the same time every single day. But for whatever the reason, I struggled still until day 365, 368. There was days that I just didn't want to go. And what really drove me was not only my internal drive and persistence to get it done, but that I had people in my corner and I didn't want to disappoint them. So that has just been amazing. And also connecting with so many beautiful people as well has just been a highlight of the last year. So I asked over on Instagram if anybody had any questions, maybe. Otherwise, I was just going to waffle and talk about the experience. So I might answer the questions that have come through and then add in things as they come up. I have left this quite late, so the sun is setting, and I might try and put on the lights if that doesn't blow everything out in a little while. So The first question was, did you enjoy it? This is a mixed bag. So I would be lying if I said, oh, it was amazing. I loved the entire thing every single day. I enjoyed it. No, that's not true. There were some really, really hard days. There were some days where I literally went out crying because I had had such a hard day personally that all I wanted to do was curl up on the couch and not just hide. And the last thing I wanted to do was go out and run. Same when there was sickness or just motivation was low because of other external factors. There was lots of times that I didn't enjoy it. However, as an experience overall, I think it was absolutely life-changing. And now what's happened, so the universe works in weird and mysterious ways. On day 368, I had to go to the GP and the physio, and I have a overloaded tendon in my foot near my toe. Who would have thought that could happen? It started 2 weeks ago, but I ignored it and I thought it's just a niggle, it'll go away. I kept running on it. It got worse and worse. And while I was going to continue running every day, I did go see the GP and physio. So I have had to take a pause, and I'll get into that later and what that looks like, because I am still in the middle of marathon training and I want to continue the lessons and pushing and everything that I've learned from this past year, continue on. So I'll go into how that sort of moves forward. But now I've had 2 days where I haven't been able to run for the first time in over 368 days. And I miss it so acutely. My legs are so restless because they're just not used to not running. It was a time for me just to zone out. I always felt better after my runs, even on the really bad days. At worst, and this was only a handful of days, I'd just feel the same afterwards. But usually after the run, I would almost always feel better. Whether that was mentally or physically, I would just feel better. So overall, did I enjoy it? Absolutely. But I'm not even sure enjoy was the right word. Like, I needed it, and I think I still do. And I think it also shows that you don't have to love something 100% of the time to make it so worthwhile and life-changing. Next question, are you considering another year of every day, or have you had a change of plans? So there's good timing because it goes into my injury issue. So the only injury that I had during the 365 days was tripping over before my first half marathon race. It was a couple weeks before, and I was devastated. I ripped up my knee and I have a scarring on it. But that was, and it was just skin. So I was still able to run. I still continued the streak, but it was just for 10-minute blocks, for a week after that. But I still continued because it wasn't muscle, it wasn't bone, it was just surface skin. So I was able to keep going. However, 2 weeks ago, so not last Sunday, but the Sunday before, after my long run, I came home, I took my shoes off, and I was like, ugh, I have a niggle, like that's painful in my, sort of the ball of my foot and my middle toes. I ignored it because I thought it's just a niggle, it'll go away. And it was only really there when I was running, and my shoes did cushion it a bit. However, over the 2 weeks since then, it has gotten progressively worse. And then 2 days ago, I tripped over a step because I'm an absolute klutz, and that really hurt it. And then I was limping and I couldn't walk or put any pressure on it. So I went to the GP and the physio, and I do still need to get an x-ray to make sure it's nothing more sinister, but I don't think it is. The physio said that he thought it was an overloaded tendon in that foot, and that I need to take a week or a few days off, ice it every day, and just have some rest, and then it hopefully will come right. He said that I wasn't allowed to run until I could do a calf raise, single calf raise on that foot. At the moment, I can't even do a double calf raise. I tried to do one yesterday and I had like a shooting pain through the foot, which took my breath away. So this is a really long-winded way of saying I was planning to continue the streak. I like that running has become a bit of a part of my identity. Like, who are you? Well, I'm someone that runs every day. I'm someone that puts myself first. And I'm not just a mother. I don't just work full time. I'm not just a wife. I'm someone that, runs and does something that pushes me. And so that was taken away. I suppose the choice was taken away unless I wanted to continue on and risk hurting myself further, which would then impact the marathon that I'm training for in April. I've decided to take his advice and lay off for a week, but I don't want to stop exercising. I don't want to stop showing up for myself every day, and I don't want to risk not being able to finish the marathon. So the physio said that swimming was fine because it doesn't put pressure on the ligament. I haven't swam since school. I'm going to say high school, but honestly, it could have been since, primary school, doing actual laps. I've maybe attempted it 1 or 2 times in my adult life. So I'm starting from zero with swimming, but I'm going to try this week to replace the everyday running with everyday swimming and really try to work up. I'm not going to be able to do the same amount of swim. So from what I Googled, a 15K run, which is what I was meant to do today, is equivalent to a 4K swim. I'm not at 4K at the moment. Today I did 400 meters. I did go with my family, so there was a bit of a time constraint there. So I probably could, I reckon, do like a kilometer. I'm going to try and do that tomorrow, but yeah, I'm not up to the 4K. And then I don't want to strain a muscle trying to go too quickly with the swimming. Right now, the focus is getting the foot better, trying the swimming and building that up. I also think it's really difficult, and I'm surprised that I'm not fitter and able to swim further. It's really hard. So I think that's a benefit, because also I don't want to get into like a rut with running and say, well, this is what I do now, because a part of the reason I did running was to push myself out of my comfort zone. And so I don't want running to become my comfort zone and just sit there. So I want to continue moving forward. So I think actually swimming, the universe, again, weird and mysterious ways, for whatever reason, I think works really well right now. So hopefully I will be able to incorporate both swimming and running when my foot gets better. We have light. Yay. Okay, so third question. How did you get started? Did you follow any plans in the early days? So in the early days, I was just trying to run as far as I could while keeping my heart rate a little bit low. I'm using a secondhand Apple Watch, so I was just following that. My heart rate was getting up to like 198, I think was the highest I saw it at. So I have quite a high heart rate apparently. And in the early days, like I couldn't have followed a plan, I don't think, because I didn't understand pace, I didn't understand zones, and I also, had to stay in my zone 2 when I did learn about that, maybe a few weeks in or a month in. To stay in zone 2, I had to walk the majority of my runs. So I Googled and researched what that looked like in terms of zones. So that's how I learnt that, sort of about a month in. I got to 5K by just doing interval, walking, running, going slow. I then after that did try to go for distance instead of time. I had looked up a plan, I think it was like the Nike run plan or the Kick app maybe, to get to a 5K, to get from 0 to 5K. So I was following that, but the progress was quite slow. I wasn't aiming for anything more than just slowly increasing and showing up each day, because that was hard enough in the beginning. And then I decided that I wanted to do the 10K, and I signed up for that. And my cousin my extended family are quite fit people, and they do sort of a lot of racing and different sports. So my cousin came with me on a few runs, and he also gave me a training plan, which was really helpful in terms of it changed it up to be like run for this amount of time and see what you can do in that time. And then when I started training for the 10K, it changed to needing to be able to hit these kilometer marks. So I suppose I had help from friends, family, and the internet to start with. And then to train for my first half, my cousin helped me again, and I just followed what he said, like the long runs he said to hit, to train for that, and it worked well. So my first 10K I did with a 6 minute per kilometer. So I finished that sort of at the 60-minute mark, and then the same pace for my first half marathon. It was just above 2 hours, I think. And now for the full marathon, I really didn't want to hurt myself. So I downloaded the Runner app because I see that everywhere. I've started following that plan for the full marathon, which has been really great because it's mixed up the runs, it's taught me some more things. So I've actually found it really easy to follow and really beneficial. Okay. What is the most surprising thing you learned about yourself in this journey? That's a really interesting question. I think that it is, my body is more capable than I have given it credit for, and how heavily your mind controls your perceived ability, even when you can go beyond that. So this last year, I've seen time and time again that my body can actually go further when I allow it and when I push it, but my mind will always give up first. So I don't want to put those limiting sort of beliefs on myself, and so that's been something I think that I really need to work on, and has been very illuminating in the last year. Will you do it again? Do you recommend it? I would recommend it if you do it safely and sort of stagger it. I know there's a lot of people that would say running every day is a dumb thing to do, but I think that if you let ego go and you know, 2 days a week are just really short, slow, 10-minute, 15-minute jogs, that can be counted as active rest. And I think that's why I didn't get more hurt sort of in this past year, even with the half marathon and marathon trainings. And so I would recommend it, and I would do it again. I am hoping to, maybe not a run streak, because I want to do so many more things, and as I said, I don't want to get too comfortable, but definitely, you know, at least 5+ days a week, and then swimming or other exercise on the other days moving forward. And I think for someone who needs something to hang on to like, or push them to start the journey, I think it's amazing. Like for me, if I wasn't doing it every day, I wouldn't have continued to do it. I think that I need to really like become hyper fixated on something and not give myself a choice to be able to do it consistently. I took all the choice away. It just, like, people are like, what do you do when you don't want to do it? And I'm like, well, I just don't have a choice. It's like brushing your teeth or going to sleep at night. Like, there's just not a choice. It's just, well, you have to do it. So when are you going to do it? Whereas if I was doing it like 5 days a week, I just don't think I would have had the same drive to do it. But now that I have done the challenge for a year, I am so eager to get back to it. And I have the passion, I suppose, that's been ignited from all the hard work. And so it's been a really good trigger, I guess, for the changes that I wanted to make. So for anyone looking for a real trigger for life change, not just in fitness, but also mental health and your belief in your abilities, I would definitely recommend it. Who is someone you admire and look up to for guidance, support, or inspiration? The reason I started running was because of an influencer online called Revi Jane, and I really admire her and the things that she's been able to achieve with young kids, both before and after children, and be able to inspire the community that she inspires, I think is amazing. And the example that she's putting forward for her kids, I really admire. What was your average length of run? So this really changed over the year. Obviously, in the beginning, they were all super short. Like, I think it took me a month to get to 5K. And now training for the marathon, I started going higher and higher. And obviously training for the half marathon, they'd get quite long as well. But I always had days that were rest day runs. So these would be, 10, 15 minutes at a slow pace. But then when my runs got longer, I would be maybe doing between 10 and 18K long run, depending on the week. So this really varied, and a plan was helpful to deal with that. In terms of diet is something I'm still really struggling with, and I think is a reason I perhaps don't look the way that I want to look even after a year. I wouldn't say that I eat unhealthily, but I don't like to sort of measure and weigh and track my food that much. Like, I eat a whole food in general diet, but I probably don't eat enough. I probably don't have enough iron. I have pretty chronic iron deficiency, as I think a lot of women do, especially when you're pushing your body. And I don't think I eat enough protein. And I know that sort of weight loss or fitness or muscle building is like 80% diet, 20% exercise. So diet is something I really need to improve on. When I started running longer distances and really pushing, I was starving all the time. And I really tried to lean into protein and carbs to help with that. But overall, I'd say I have more of an awareness of what I'm eating, but it probably hasn't. And I'm eating more protein, like more eggs and red meat and that kind of thing. But overall, probably not a massive change. What are your top 5 methods to defeat inconsistency? Obviously, this would change depending on who you are and what motivates and drives you. For me, my biggest method was running every day, like I mentioned before, not giving myself the choice. I think that if you rely on motivation, you're not going to be, nobody is motivated 100% of the time. Motivation is really fleeting. So if you wait for yourself to be motivated, you probably aren't going to get very far. So not giving yourself the choice and leaning into, leaning into discipline, I would say, is what's going to help the most. Another thing would be having people around you that are on a similar journey or preferably are better than you. Like in the early days, again, I ran quite a few times with my cousin. I also ran with a couple of friends who were a lot more accomplished in running than I was and had been running for a long time. So they really pushed me. And that really helped. So finding people who preferably are a little bit better than you and happy to push you, not couching it as a choice in your head. Also being willing to be flexible. So I think if you're really rigid with your schedule, it's easy to say, well, this time has slipped away. I haven't done it in the time that I was meant to, therefore I can't do it. Which is a slippery slope, because then you'll find more reasons not to do it. So being flexible with your schedule, I think, really helps as well. Okay, I've been talking for like an hour, so I will wrap it up, maybe choose one more. How has running consistently changed your body? So I would really emphasize that the biggest change that I have seen is sort of mentally, and what I believe I'm now capable of, having clarity of mind, having something to go to that is just mine. Also knowing that I'm so much more capable, like I'm so much more useful now. If I'm late for an appointment, I can run there. If I have a yoga appointment, I can run there. If my kids want to go on their bikes, I can run next to them without being winded. So I'd say that those are massive wins and are a lot more important than what my body looks like. I know that my body is healthy. So I know that I am a lot healthier than I was a year ago, especially cardiovascularly. I am a lot fitter. And I'd say I am more toned. It's sort of all over, which is nice to see that change. But I would also say that I was hoping, I suppose, for everything to especially after 2 kids, to just come together nicely and be really tight and toned, and that's not happened. So I wouldn't tell someone to go into exercise like expecting the world from your body. And actually, I was talking with my husband about this last night, because he said, you know, you have a healthy body. You know it's healthy. Whole foods diet, you exercise every day. Like, you do have a healthy body, but you know, it's society's construct of beauty, and that like a healthy body is a totally flat stomach, which is just not true. That sort of influences my, oh, well, it's not changed the way that I want to, and I don't look as healthy as I want to, which is just totally untrue. So that is really off topic, but all that to say, I think that if you go into something like this, or exercise in general, if you just treat your body right, you are balanced in your diet and your approach to exercise, and you ease in and you protect your body, then you will feel healthier. Well, thank you so much for sitting and letting me blather on. I hope that that was at all informative or helpful. And if you have any questions or want to get into it yourself, or any more tips and tricks, just let me know. I love to have a chat, and I'll see you next week.